Whatever the outcome of Terry's case, it won't help his career or his reputation on or off the pitch. Umbro, a British sports brand owned by Nike that provides the England team's uniforms, has already removed his photo from its usual prominent place on its website. And that may be just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the damage done to Terry's marketability as a celebrity footballer. Joining us here live in the studio now to explore that is Ray.Rudowski. He's the Regional Director of Crisis Planning and Training at Edelman, which is, of course, the world's biggest PR firm. Ray, with these charges that we've just learned about, how deep is the damage to John Terry's reputation and also his marketability?
Well, this is going to come out as the allegations are brought forward. What I think is the bigger question is, what is the impact on the game? And already this is the second set of allegations or incident of its kind. We had Sepp Blatter, the FIFA president, make some rather insensitive remarks a month ago suggesting that racism on the pitch could be settled with a handshake, and that caused him a lot of reputational damage. So we've got a situation where the sport itself has been tainted regardless of the outcome of this situation.
So the sport itself is tainted and lots of corporate sponsors are sitting there probably feeling a little bit nervous. If you're advising them, what do you tell them to do?
Well, I think the wider question for sponsors is, how do we use our influence, our leverage, our association with the game to change the conversation towards making this a constructive conversation about eliminating racism. Pulling out is a business decision. I think that may be short term. Wider and longer term, they know that there's a problem. How do we change the conversation? How do we make this a focus of zero tolerance and move towards eliminating these attitudes on the pitch?
Let's approach this from two different angles, one with the individual, the athlete, and the other as the sport of football. What's the best way for John Terry to clean up his image? Because everyone knows about that Tawdry affair from earlier. The whole world knows about that. And then you've got this racism allegation. So how do you clean up his image? And then how do you clean up the image of the sport of football?
Well, let me take the second question. Cleaning up the image of sport, I think, has to be admitting that there's a problem, and then working towards how does the industry, the game, work with its sponsors, its suppliers, its players, governments, NGOs, to come up with a solution of what's our policy on this, and how do we deal with it when it comes up. As for an individual, I mean, leaving aside any one individual, anytime that something like this comes forward, it's complicated. And it's complicated by the fact that there's legal proceedings and somebody not wanting to admit that things may have happened when there may be evidence to the contrary. I think, again, the easiest strategy is to admit that there's a problem, to move forward on what the fix is, and to try to reframe the conversation around ending racism as a stain on the game.
Is there anything that corporate sponsors can learn from the whole Tiger Woods scandal? Because when that broke a few years ago, I remember a lot of his sponsors, they didn't really act in the beginning. They sort of sat on the fence because it was Tiger Woods. They didn't really want to move right or left.
And there's a lot at stake.
Right, there's a lot of money at stake. So what can we learn from that incident, from a corporate sponsor's point of view, that could be applied in this incident, especially if you want to get ahead of the problem?
I think you have to have those conversations early, and you have to have those conversations in a scenario planning discussion. If X happens, what's our reaction? If Y happens, what's our reaction? To suddenly learn about Tiger Woods and this kind of tawdry scandal and then say, what do we do about it, doesn't actually go towards fixing the problem, and actually drags it out and draws attention to the issue. A better way would be to say, here's our policy. If you breach this policy, then we will withdraw, or we will take responsible action. In the case of racism, I think the leverage here and the influence is that since sport provides a platform for brands to go global, that they do have a real opportunity here to talk about racism as a stain on the game, and how do we eliminate this? Because we're talking about an attitude here. And it's something that, again, sponsors, because they're global, have a real opportunity to end.
They actually have a positive impact.
Sure, I mean, like the
end.
United Colors of Benetton and so forth. I mean, these types of brands do go towards unifying people around the world through their products. Why not say, hey, you know what? If we're going to be involved in this game, let's learn from this. What can we do to fix it?
Ray.Rudowski of Crisis Planning at Edelman PR firm. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your insight today.
Thanks, Pauline.
And just ahead on World Business Today, Russia's president